Hello, this is John Coleman. Welcome to Macrosoft's and Kalsoft's Creating Your HIPAA Cloud Roadmap. This is a series of 2 webinars that Macrosoft and Kalsoft are doing in partnership to share with the community about HIPAA compliance. All participants are muted at this point to avoid background noise. If you would like to ask a question, we will be presenting for about 20 minutes and then covering questions at the end. Please use the chat bubble that looks like a bubble in a cartoon where you can type to me and I will ask Tahir questions at the end of this session. Tahir Masood is one of the partners at Kalsoft and an expert when it comes to cloud and HIPAA compliance. He's going to be presenting to us today the HIPAA Cloud Roadmap, and we'll be answering your questions as we proceed. So without further introduction, Tahir, please take over the presentation.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the introductions, and welcome everyone. Today we'll be talking about HIPAA compliance and how you can build a roadmap when it comes to your IT operations and technology solutions to ensure that you have all it takes to be HIPAA compliant and avoid any challenges and breach of data with regards to health records and patient information. The agenda that we will be covering today is illusion of being a HIPAA compliant. There are common mistakes that people do, and we have encountered that. What are the 5 steps that are required to start your journey towards the HIPAA compliance? That is something we will jump to right after identifying the mistakes. And how HIPAA compliance in the cloud is more secure and more reliable than your on-premises deployment. We are not saying that your on-premises deployment is poorly configured or is not HIPAA compliant, but we are also saying that the cloud provides even a much better solution from a security and compliance perspective, and we will share the reasons why. That will be followed by a question and answer sessions where if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or John. And even if you have questions afterwards, you can reach out to us over the email, and we will be glad to share our information and knowledge on this subject. With that, I will move to the next slide, which is our professional services. I would like John to probably go through it and share a brief about us.
Thank you very much again, Tahir. So Macrosoft and Kalsoft are strategic partners. Both companies independently are Microsoft Gold partners and have been so for in excess of 10 plus years. We're both roughly in our 20 plus years in the business. Microsoft celebrating its 25th anniversary just this month. We provide services in a broad array of different areas, and this is kind of the 60-second commercial during our presentation. We provide Office 365 migration and implementation services. We support people moving into the Azure cloud, as well as private clouds or hybrid infrastructures that are very common as people want to manage their networks in an effective way. We have a very robust ERP and CRM practice covering Microsoft Dynamics and other very important areas to organizations as they manage their company. We are a custom software development organization using a DevOps approach with Agile Scrum methodology for our team, and a project management approach to ensure that everything that we do is delivered with high quality and error-free for our customers. So that's really the end of the commercial, and we now want to go back into specifically HIPAA and how it's impacting your organization.
Thank you, John, again for a quick run through the services that we offer. I would like to move to the next slide. I will take a few seconds before it loads. So we would definitely like to start with what HIPAA is, and many people who are here must be aware of it. But just for some of you who might not be, and have heard of it and would like to share a little bit of background. HIPAA is a public law. It became a public law in 1996. It provides regulates and provide guidelines on privacy of health information, security of health information, notification of breaches of confidentiality, penalties for violating HIPAA. It is regulated by Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, and it is enforced by Office of Civil Rights. So HIPAA again has, from a general perspective, it has two components. One falls under the state law, and the other falls under the federal law. Different states have different control over certain information around HIPAA, so be careful that which state you are operating in. You are also aware of the state relevant HIPAA laws, and you should use them in conjunction with your federal laws available via HHS. So primarily at the end of the day, the HIPAA was here to protect patient information and people from using patient information. So the next slide shares what is protected under HIPAA. So in a nutshell, PHI information, which is patient health information or personal health information, is covered under HIPAA. That includes the medical records, your diagnostic information, communication between your healthcare provider and yourself, your social security, your health insurance numbers, and so on and so forth. And that also includes all your diagnostic information like your x-rays, your blood reports, and stuff like that. That comes under direct, identifiers of PHI, and then there are indirect identifiers which can be used in conjunction with the PHI to identify the records or to identify people who are associated with it, which includes name, geography, and what birth date, date of admission, date of discharge, date of death, and so on and so forth. A lot of crimes can be committed using that information, and a lot of information with regards to a particular person can be released if you look at the release of this information. So if your organization is involved in any such information, whether you are a healthcare provider or you are a service provider to a healthcare provider or you are a vendor to a healthcare provider, all such organizations which are part of the ecosystem of healthcare services have to comply under the HIPAA regulations. Even if you are carrying some patient records, like a lot of people do as a physical paper copy in the back seat of the car, that is a HIPAA record which is residing in your car and can be treated if it is released or if it is made available to public as a HIPAA breach of confidentiality. I'm sorry for a little sore throat. My voice is a little choppy because of that. I have to break in between. So with that, I move to the next slide. In this slide, I will talk about a lot of examples which we have gathered, and I've literally summarized them in these 5 large points. That a lot of companies, they feel that they are HIPAA compliant, and what are the common mistakes that they do when they feel that they don't need to look into this HIPAA compliance thing. One of the biggest example that I get is that I have an EMR or EHR, which is electronic medical record or electronic health record software, which is primarily a hospital information system or a clinic management system where you are keeping your patient records. So people are saying that we have a good EMR solution and that is HIPAA compliant, so which means that we are HIPAA compliant. Well, that's not the case. That solution is allowing you to maintain the information and ensuring that the information within that system does not get released within your organization. But at the end of the day, there are people within your organization who are using that system. So HIPAA compliance doesn't end with you procuring a system which is an EMR or EHR compliant, HIPAA compliant and EMR EHR solution, but you also need to train your people and build a process around that. A lot of companies I have seen, they have a great EMR solution, but they print everything out and they keep those files, in places where anybody can have a peek and have a look. So that EMR solution is of no use if you are leaving those printed copies everywhere for others to have a look at it. Similarly, a lot of companies, they use an EMR system, which is a HIPAA compliant solution as the bought it from, as the bought buy it from their vendor. But once bought, that system also provides options to integrate. So a lot of information within those organizations flows using emails, using other solutions which are used for capturing paper records or maintain other patient information like their diagnostic information like X-rays, MRIs, and stuff like that. So when they are using an EMR record and using their email service to communicate internally, having that EMR record, so and that an email service is not properly configured or is HIPAA compliant, so there is a potential chance of breach. The other example that I usually get is, people often say that my data is encrypted, and when we ask them, what do you mean by your data is encrypted, they say that we have a SAN solution or something which has an encryption and everything resides on that, so which means that we are secure and encrypted, and from a HIPAA compliant perspective, we are all good. Well, that is only partially true. As I have said that you have a data which is at rest in an encrypted SAN, but most of the time the data is in transit, which means the data is traveling between systems, data is traveling between different users. So is your data properly compliant and encrypted while it is traveling between the users using your other systems? So by just encrypting your source of data where the data is residing or data at rest, you are not ensuring HIPAA compliance in your organization. And there is another example which often people say that I have a firewall and nobody from outside can access our systems. The results and the studies have shown that more than 95% of the data breaches that happen, they happen because of internal users. So whether, I'm not saying that it is an intentional activity done by an internal user, it can be all unintentional, but data breaches are usually tracked to internal users because of their either lack of understanding or lack of process or simply a little bit of ignorance that they bring along. So the systems do not have to just be designed so that only external users can come in and cause a data breach. They should also be designed in a way that internal users should remain within the confined boundaries to ensure HIPAA compliance. One of the topmost reasoning that I get is that we have a data center and nobody from IT is allowed within the data center. And that is why every system that we have is within the data center, so we are HIPAA compliant. And whenever we have done an audit, we have made sure that none of the information is placed outside the data center. Well, from a physical perspective, that might sound very logical, but we all know that data cannot be seen, and certainly data cannot be felt. So data travels between systems, data travels between different type of devices, now even mobile devices, and this is one of the biggest examples that I give, that I have seen a company which has an electronic medical record system which was HIPAA compliant. They have a firewall, their data was encrypted, but they used to send the patient records over an email, and those emails are received by people who are accessing their email on their personal mobile devices with all the attachments and everything coming in. And all you need is just one incident or one failed device or one stolen device to get involved into a HIPAA breach or a medical data record breach. So by just securing the data center, it doesn't work. You have to seal all the holes. You have to make sure that you are looking after all the type of devices which are either inputting the data or receiving the output of the data, and you have to make sure your infrastructure or your information channels are also designed and implemented to ensure HIPAA compliant. And the last but not least example is that most of the people that have come across to me with that examples are executives that, okay, what is HIPAA? I have very little knowledge of it. From our perspective, HIPAA is only a bunch of regulations that we have to ensure. So I usually tell them that, HIPAA is not only something which talks about electronic medical record, it also talks about how you can keep the privacy of information, how you can keep the paper records. But since we are an IT company and we live in a digital world of age where information and data has become the key, and so we are considering and talking about HIPAA more with regards to the electronic data perspective. However, from a HIPAA guideline perspective, there are other options available that if you are maintaining physical files and paper records, how you're going to go and do that. With that, I will move to the next slide. So these are the common mistakes that I talked about. What are the 5 core steps that are required to start your journey towards HIPAA compliance? So I have listed them down to ensure that I explain it as much as at a high level as possible, and then if you need, we can have a one-on-one discussion on the side to dive deep into any areas that you feel you need more information on. So the first step is understanding HIPAA. What are the privacy rules? What are the security rules? What are the electronic data exchange rules? So I have highlighted the electronic data exchange because that is an area where we will be focusing on. So electronic data exchange is extremely vital. That is the point where all the information is actually revolving around, and a point where all that information goes out and get released. The second phase is to conduct an assessment to make sure that you assess your systems to understand where the potential breach can happen, where they are right now with regards to where they should be right now. So, and usually when we talk about assessment, I have seen that often people directly jump into their healthcare application only and make sure that they audit that, and then they jump into a couple of servers which are hosting their healthcare information, and they feel that if both of these things are secure, they are secure from a HIPAA perspective. Well, that's not right. They ignore the biggest challenge or the biggest element, which is the core infrastructure, which is hosting, or which is a foundation for all the applications and all the systems that you are running. So if you are not auditing your core software platforms, your core productivity platforms like your email servers, your operating systems, your core database servers, your core database management systems, your software solutions that runs that, your security solutions, your antiviruses, and your compliance related solutions that are running, if you're not including them in your assessment, you are making a big mistake, and you might end up paying much more in terms of fines and other issues when it comes to a breach of data that happens. The third phase is define the roadmap. So after you conduct an assessment, you define a roadmap. Your roadmap should include your infrastructure strategy. It should include your application strategy. It should also include your people. You should let your people know who are using the system that what HIPAA compliance is, what are the elements that you have to be careful about, how encryption works, how obfuscation works, how infrastructure or simple or sending an email with a patient record and can violate the law and cause compliance issues, and how you can get over that. So there are solutions available. Even we have configured email solutions for HIPAA compliance companies, and there people are sharing it over the email, but there is a way of doing it. People are sharing information for research purposes internally with others. There is a way of doing it, and there are guidelines which are available. So but rather than trying and failing and causing a compliance issue, it is better to seek help from those who know or get some more knowledge, either by doing some research online or following the HIPAA policy to make sure that you are well compliant and well within regulations. Then you go with the implementation plan, where your implementation plan should not include only the application that runs an electronic medical record. It should include your infrastructure, your applications, and the training of the people. People training on application is not ample enough. You have to train people on the process and knowledge of the HIPAA. That is extremely important to be successful and ensure a HIPAA compliant environment. The last phase is once you have the implementation plan, you have a monitoring and upgrade plan. So you have a proper plan for your audits, and your audit will reveal challenges. You will patch them, and then you do an audit again on a periodic basis. So this cycle goes on. So from day one, when you start building an understanding of the HIPAA, you should also start building an understanding of how an HIPAA audit looks like and what you need to do in order to get it right and keep on auditing to become a better HIPAA compliant organization. How HIPAA is compliant? HIPAA compliance in the cloud is more secure. One of the biggest examples that I give that, because there are more dollars involved from the large companies who are providing cloud services like Microsoft, Amazon, and others. So they have much high elements at stake. So they provide higher level of security, privacy, compliance, and transparency for the companies to get all what they need from an infrastructure perspective, from a platform perspective, from a solution perspective to be HIPAA compliant. So they also provide you HIPAA compliance business associate agreements where you can sign an agreement directly with HIPAA compliant HIPAA cloud providers to get your compliance going. You can have all your backup, your security, your regular audits, and everything planned within these large cloud providers. So people assuming that moving to the cloud is going to be a big step from a security perspective, from a compliance perspective. Yes, I say it is a big step, but in a positive direction. There are many people who think that this is not in a positive direction. I think otherwise, because of many examples that I have seen, and we have done implementations where cloud has proven to be more reliable, more secure, and more agile when it comes to security, privacy, and compliance. You can secure platform using different security development lifecycle, infrastructure security controls, operational security controls, and compliance. There are different ways of doing it. There are different processes associated with that. These companies, they offer a much higher level of skill set of people, which hardly any of the small hospital or even a large hospital can afford to hire. These security teams, these security experts, they work day in, day out to ensure that their systems are well ahead of any attack that can come in, and they are always up to date, naturally more up to date than any on-prem system that you have. So cloud is probably the much better and more secure option, in my view, if you are looking for your future roadmap for HIPAA compliance. That doesn't mean that you do all your lift and shift operation right now. It means that cloud should be on your agenda when you are considering the next roadmap and next planning for your IT and infrastructure environments. From a data protection perspective, in the cloud you have data segregation. You can have logical isolation of data, even you can have physical isolation of data. Your data at rest is protected, your data in transit is protected, your encryption options are there, your data redundancy is ensured, and your data is destructed once you move to the cloud. So move away from the cloud. So if you decide not to stay at the cloud, you want to end your subscription, there is a proper data destruction policy that is implemented. I have seen 2 examples in my life where HIPAA compliance was triggered and a company was fined, and it was just because of a stolen laptop, and there was no process or system in place, and everybody in the company was okay that a laptop was stolen, but the stolen laptop was actually carrying a lot of records, which resulted in a HIPAA compliance fine and regulatory challenges coming towards that healthcare organization. So as an organization, you need to have, if you are not using the cloud, you need to have a local policy for data destruction, and that policy should include your server-side data destruction as well as the data destruction that happens on a client machine. So you need to have, there are solutions and softwares available where you can now monitor, control, and ensure the organizational policy on laptops, on mobile devices, on mobile phones and tablets and everything. So if you're not having that solution in-house, you are probably having a breach about to happen or ready to happen in sooner than later probably. Because, and why I'm saying sooner than later, data has become a commodity recently. It was not a commodity few months or few years back. People now realize the value of data. The laws, they have become stricter. Now, the IT companies which are keeping that information are more and more open to such attacks, whether from outside and even from the inside. You can have an angry employee that you fire, can walk away with a bunch of data and can cause a serious issue for your company. So there has to be systems that needs to be in place. People have become more aware of data laws, mostly the internal employees, and most of the breaches that happen because of an internal employee, either by mistake or due to some anger issues or challenges that they have faced with the organization. So please be careful around that. Make sure that you have all the systems in place. A few $100,000 worth of investment can save you from millions of dollars of fines. And this is where I end. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I would be glad to answer those.
Tahir, thank you very much. That was a tremendous amount of information in a very short period of time. So thank you for covering all those various elements of the HIPAA roadmap. I've received 3 questions at this point. Let me ask them in order, and if others have questions, please type them in as we go. First is, are there any guidelines for HIPAA data specifically as it relates to mobile devices?
The quick answer is no. HIPAA provides guidelines on electronic data flow, and the technology provides you guidelines with how you can control the flow of electronic information on different form factor and devices. So as a responsibility to any CIO, any IT manager, IT director who's responsible for ensuring HIPAA compliance in their organization, they should be aware of the solutions which can protect data flow on different form factors like laptop, mobile phones, and tablets. So yes, there are solutions available, but no, HIPAA does not provide a specific guideline to mobile devices.
Okay, so mobile is becoming more and more important, but no specific guidelines in place as of today. Thank you. The next question is, I guess, a company that scans and destroys their paper records. So we only keep scanned records. How is HIPAA compliance applied to scanned records?
Great question. Whether you are using a scanner to scan your records or you are using an electronic system which is keeping the data, at the end of the day, scanned records are also containing the PHI information. So all the regulatory requirements apply to any scanned information that you keep. So whether your system in your system, you just go to a scan record, open a PDF file, read through it, and then save it back, or you use a complicated system where you can search and pull a record of a patient and do the electronic data, all the HIPAA regulatory requirements apply. So if you are using a scanned system, your system should again be encrypted. Your scan file should have an access level, privilege level accesses, that who can access what information, who can view which information, and where they are residing, and when we are sharing with other people, they have to comply with all the HIPAA regulatory requirements, which means a secure infrastructure and an even secure access levels to people who are viewing that information. An example is that if you are sharing that file with somebody in the billing department in a hospital who has to generate a super bill that has to go to an insurance company, that billing person should not be able to see what blood test results that the patient has or what X-ray report that the patient has. He or she should only be able to see the services and the bills associated with that service. So if you can protect that in a scanned file scenario, it is great. If you're not, you are already in compliance breach.
Okay, Tahir, thank you very much. And the final question we have for today's program is, how does HIPAA work in the cloud? Is there a separate agreement or cloud contract that needs to be signed?
There are multiple options available. You can go through a Microsoft partner. In case you are using Azure, you can go through a Microsoft partner. For example, we are a Microsoft partner. You can go through us and we can help you draft an agreement between you and Microsoft, or you can directly go on Microsoft Azure site and have a BAA, which is Business Associate Agreement, that you directly sign with Microsoft for the level of compliance that you want to maintain. Microsoft Azure provides a bunch of compliances for different industries. HIPAA is one of them. So you are going to sign an agreement either with the Microsoft partner or directly with Microsoft for having an HIPAA compliant platform available for you.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you, Tahir, and thank you to all the people that logged on today. This event is being recorded, so it will be available online on demand for future viewing. We thank everybody for their participation, and this is the first of a 2-part series that will be conducted again 1 week from today. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.